Hi, the purpose of this video is to explain a little bit about Google Sheets. This was the workshop that I provided for the committees. However, just as a recap, if you would like to go back or anything like that. Now, within workshops, for example, here in the Parent Green team, I created a folder called Sheets. I shared the basics of Google Sheets with all the teams, so you'll either find that within the shared with me. You can also find and you can make a copy of the basics and also the working worksheet I shared with you as well. So let's start with the basics. So when I'm working with Google Sheets, for example, how do I create a new one? And when I say Sheets, that means like an Excel file is what we might more commonly be familiar with. So I can create a new one by going up to the top, clicking on New, clicking on Google Sheet, and it will create a new one. Now I suggest the first thing that you do is at the top, click and put a title. So I could put example. The next thing that I recommend doing before you do anything else is going up to the share button. Right now when it says private only to me, I could add people. So here I might add a principal. If I'm sharing it with someone in particular, I could share it with a different committee email. There's a variety of things that I could do. I could add person by person. So for example, I could share this with myself. And anyone within the Google, it will remember, or within the ASFG system. Then I can decide. Over here there's a pencil. By clicking on the arrow, I can allow this person to edit. I can allow them to only comment. This would be important, for example, if I have a very important document and I don't want anyone to change it. I could allow many people to look at one document and just allow them to make comments of where they think edits, and maybe only one person is allowed to change something in particular, for example. Or they can only view. So if I want to share it with someone outside, I want them to view it, but I don't want them to make any changes or even comment, I can change that. So those are the three levels of privacy. You can even add a note. If you add a note, they'll receive that note in their email. So like, hello, I'm sharing this with you. The other option is if I want to share it with many people, for example, or I want a variety of people, but I want multiple people to look without putting in their email addresses, or I don't know their email address, I can go down here to the bottom where it says Advanced. I can click on Advanced. Up here where it says Private Only to You, I can click on Change. So here are the levels of sharing. The top is I could go into Google and I could be able to search for this. This would be for someone who maybe wants their name to be out there, recognized. They want people to see their work. I usually instruct parents, teachers, and students to, if you're going to make something public, say anyone who has the link. So maybe I got the link from the ASFG Facebook page, or I was shared this in an email. That's, I think, the best. We just don't really want people to be searching for our stuff, just to keep a limit of privacy. This could, anyone at ASFG, that means they have to have a at asfg.edu.mx account in order to see it. That means you could not share somebody who has a plain Gmail account, you could not share with someone who has a Yahoo account, or so on and so forth. And this one restricts it a little bit more, so this somebody could search for it within the American School, but this one someone has to be within the American School domain and have the link. And then with the off, that just means I'm going to decide, I'm going to specifically put in the people's names who will have access. So a lot of the times people just want to send someone a link because they don't know their email address, or they're going to share it via WhatsApp or something like that. I would go then with anyone with a link can view. And down here you can say can view, they can comment, or can edit. The default is can view. I usually stick with that one. I'll let people see it, but if it's something that doesn't matter, maybe you want multiple people to sign up or something, for example in a spreadsheet, you could do that. If you're having people sign up, you don't know their emails, it doesn't really matter if it's private or not, you can do that. So those are just a couple of options as far as sharing is concerned. I press save and I can send it to them if I want. Okay, down here people could allow, like for example, now that I've shared it with my private account, I could now share it with somebody else. If I click on the X, that means anyone here, they can't add new people to it. Again, that could be something if it's private, you don't want people sharing it beyond, okay? Or sometimes you might not want people to download it, print. If I worked hard on it and I'm charging money for it, for example, you could disable it that way as well. So those are just a few of the other options. Those are just the basics with sharing and with naming. So now when I go back to my drive, I see that it's already named there. It tells me when it was last updated and who owns it for now. One other thing when working with sheets is that you might want a variety of tabs or variety of different work pages that you're working with. How I can make a new page is by adding the plus at the bottom. Now if you want to name it, if you click on the down arrow, there are some options. So if you didn't want this page, you can delete it. If you have some data, let's say you have a list of names and you want that to stay the same, you can duplicate it, you can copy it, all those kinds of things. You can even rename it. So if I want this to say page 1, you can rename it there. And you can also protect the sheet. So that's a really great option. So for example, let's say that I have a sheet and I just want people to look at it. Or I have a group of people and each person has a different page to work with. And so with this I can set the permissions. Okay, so I can restrict to who can edit the page. I can say, okay, only the Parent Green team. I could say I can add people. So when I do that, if I share this page with people, other people might be able to see it, but the only people who can edit it would be, for example, whoever you tell. And then you can click save share permissions. You could always go back and delete that. You could change the permissions and I could just say done, for example. So those are just some of the basic things. Here in my drive, I shared a getting started with spreadsheets. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things that are in this one. So now that I have a Google spreadsheet, for example, at the bottom you can see all these different types of tabs you can have. Just to be aware, every cell is named. So for example, this column is column A, and this is row 1. So for example, here would be A9. That will be important once you get to more complicated and different other kind of permissions you want to set. So it's just good to know which ones are the columns, which ones are the rows, and which each cell is. So for example, here I have A21. I can make them larger if I go to this column at the top by going between the two columns, and where I see the two arrows, I can pull them larger, pull them smaller. If I have some words already in there, if I double click, it will make it to the size of this one. If I double click, I can go back. Anything I want to do, I can always undo what I'm doing. Okay, so now what I can do. The great thing about Sheets as well is it can do problems for you. So for example, if I start any equation or any problem with an equal sign, I can then say, okay, 3 plus 3 plus 3, and it will automatically do the calculation for me. So anything you start with an equal sign, it will do it for you. Another great thing about Sheets is you can tell it different cells to add up or do equations with. So for example, if I have data sets and I want to find out information, by just adding the equal sign in front of it, it will complete it for me. So whatever I have, if I put my equal sign at the beginning, it will find the answer. So you can do it with any data that you have if you would like to find something out without doing much work. Super nice. Another great thing is that you can merge cells. So one of the ways that we can merge cells is that if we have a group of cells, we can merge them together. And by finding this merge button, I can merge them together so that if I'm making like a title, for example, or I need a larger workspace, by undoing it, I just say unmerge. So we can group them together or have them be spread apart. I can also put borders by going up to what looks like kind of like a window shutters, and I can choose different types of borders I would like in there as well. So I highlighted my information, went up to the border sign, and made it. I can remove some, add some, whatever I would like in there. And one thing is that sometimes writing will go over and I'll lose it. So one thing that's really nice is that if I click on right here where it says text wrapping, right now it's going to overflow, so it's going to go into the next lane. But if I go to the next one, wrap, it will wrap around, and I can see all of it within whatever cells I want it to. You can also do what's called adding an add-on to your spreadsheet. So way at the top we have add-ons, and I can go to Get Add-ons. And one nice one that's a great one to have is Add to Drive. And you can press Enter, you can look for it, and there's many different ones. If you would like to get to I have the Chrome store. If you copy this, you can paste it in a new, and you can find it that way as well. Now right at the top I have Add to my Drive. So if I go, for example, into Google and I say, okay, I want to look for a picture of the ASFG logo. If I want to add a picture, for example, in Google Images, one thing I could do is I could right click. I'm going to say Save to my Drive. I can either save the link or save the image. In this case, I want to save the image. And now if I go back, what I can do, a great thing that I can do is I can go up here to the Insert, and I can insert the image. And you can search here in Google as well. But a nice thing is that if you have things stored inside your Google, you can also add them in as well. Now, for example, if I can't find an image I'm looking for, that means it might not be under the Creative Commons license, so I could just find any, if I search for a different photo. So that's a good thing about the Google Images. They have a license for us to use, but if they're not, if something's not available, that means that we haven't been given permission. So I can select anything, select it, I can add it, I can resize them by going to the corners, click, pull, and I can add anything there that I would like as well. Another thing that I can do is I can move. So if I click, make it so there's a hand, I can pull different cells into text from cells into different cells if I want to do that as well. I'm going to add one more video, and that's about using the conditional formatting, which I think will be something very helpful. So look for that in the following video.